Hello, and thank you for joining me again today on the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can really help the show reach more loss and infertility families by taking a moment to leave a positive review or rating on Apple or Spotify. You can also check out more information about the episode in the show notes at journeyforjasmine.com. In this episode, Courtney shares her journey through infertility, 4 IUIs, and welcoming twins born at 29 weeks who spent time in the NICU. She later faced a miscarriage at 10 weeks due to chromosomal issues. In this episode, Courtney opens up about grief, perinatal mental health, postpartum anxiety, and the isolation that often follows pregnancy loss. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Courtney. Courtney, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Courtney. I am from New York. I am on here as a lost parent. So I actually am a mom of 4-year-old twin boys. So those are my only living children. And then a history of infertility, NICU, loss. So pretty complicated journey to parenthood and building our family, but very grateful to have our 2 boys.
Was the infertility and loss something that you ever thought that you would have to face?
Not at all. I think like a lot of people, I assumed like you have sex and then you get pregnant and there's no complications and you're pregnant for 9 months and then you have a healthy delivery and everything goes perfectly. And pretty much from start to finish, none of that was accurate. So I definitely wasn't something that I had thought of or like really knew much about prior to it happening.
So do you mind sharing a little more about your journey?
Yeah. So my husband and we've actually been together a very long time. We've been together since we were in high school. And then after we got married, we waited a few years and then decided we wanted to start trying. So we started trying for probably like naturally or without assistance for like over a year, maybe close to 15 months. By the time we got to go to the fertility specialist, COVID happened and it kind of slowed everything down. But we ended up in 2020 doing 4 IUIs. So we did 2 that failed. Our third one was treated as an ectopic, but it was really a pregnancy of like an unknown location. My numbers kept going up and down, but they never really saw anything on the ultrasounds. So they decided just to treat that one with the medication. And then we waited a little bit and we were actually supposed to go straight into IVF after that, those 3, but we didn't have any insurance coverage for fertility treatments. So that was like September. So we were going to wait until January when I could switch insurances. But then my husband's parents were actually like nice enough to offer to pay for 1 more IUI for us because at that point, we'd already spent like 10 grand. I was like, I'm not spending another 2,000 on an IUI. So we had decided to pause, but they said that they would pay for it. And we were actually lucky enough to get pregnant with the twins on that time. So that was a huge shock.
It was your very lucky cycle, right?
Yes. I'm like, everything worked out for that one because I was like, we weren't going to do it. And then even the day of my first blood test with the doctor, I like fully did not believe I was pregnant. I was like, I feel nothing. There's no chance. My doctor was going out on a medical leave and I was like, you need to make my IVF plan before you go. Like, I'm not waiting. And then they ended up calling like a few hours later. And the doctor was like, you made me make this whole plan for nothing. I'm like, yeah, sorry.
Rather be prepared, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that was like such a huge blessing. We didn't expect it. Thankfully, the boys are here and healthy, but we definitely had a complicated pregnancy and everything with them. Pretty much from, like I said, start to finish with everything. It was like problems here and there. But they went from being My little one was 1 pound, 10 ounces when he was born, and the other one was 2 pounds, 12 ounces. But now they're four and little tornadoes.
How many weeks were they born at?
They were born at 29 weeks.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you definitely had, I mean, if there's something that could go wrong,
Hmm.
then yeah, it seems like just from the infertility to the rough pregnancy to the loss, I mean, you just kind of hit
Yeah.
all of it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely tough. And it was said it was COVID. So I had the boys in 2021. So it wasn't quite, the world wasn't quite shut down the way it was the year before. But it was still like my husband and I were the only ones allowed to go to the NICU to see them for the 12 weeks. And then even after they came home being preemies, we had to keep them away from everyone. So with the exception of like immediate family, nobody met them until they were pretty much their first birthday was like their big welcome to the world. Because in addition to like keeping them safe medically, I was also super anxious about them getting sick and ending up back in the hospital. So we were like definitely overly cautious.
It's hard to be, dealing with them already being premature and all that, and then having, not the height of COVID, but still where COVID's going really
Mhm.
strong. And yeah, I'd be the same way. Like nobody breathe on my baby, nobody look
Yeah.
at my baby. Like, just
Mhm.
stay away.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very, very protective. And then after them, we were very undecided about whether or not we were going to have any more kids because of everything. But really, just last year, so they were almost 3.5. And we were like, okay, like maybe we'll start thinking about it. Still didn't have fertility coverage or anything. So we're like, we'll kind of see if anything happens and go from there. And we actually got in October, our first surprise pregnancy test. We weren't preventing it, but we definitely weren't like, I wasn't tracking or anything. But that one ends up, there was chromosomal issues and I miscarried her at 10 weeks and had to do like a DNC right before the holidays last year. So that was pretty terrible because that was the first time it felt like things like happened. It was like natural, like we didn't do any treatment. And it was like, oh, like, wow, like this is like a little miracle. And then pretty much from the start, it was like, oh, well, my levels aren't doubling quite like they should be. And the sonogram's behind. And that just ended up not being a, a viable pregnancy either.
So, when I hear like stories like that, because yours is, I mean, similar but different to mine, where we have to, it's like trouble, like we said, trouble from the start. And it just feels like how many more things do you have
Mm-hmm.
to go through? It's like I've already had my share of bad things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
did you ever feel like, okay, this is like the infertility part. This is the hard part. So like I got that out of the way. Is that
Yeah.
anything you ever kind of dealt with?
Absolutely. I think through each step, it was like, okay, like we got through that. So, like, now it'll be easier. Or now, like, maybe it'll be smooth sailing from here and things will go. But it felt like pretty much every step of the way, there was something. So, it was like the fertility treatment. It's like, okay, like, there's no insurance coverage. So, we have to like pay for those, which fortunately I know is so common in the US because coverage isn't great. And then it was like, finally, like we get the positive pregnancy, and then it's like, no, nothing on the ultrasound. Let's treat that. And it just, everything from this. And then even the pregnancy, it was like, I pretty much knew it was twins from, I think my first ultrasound was like 5.5 weeks. So I knew from like that moment, they were like, oh, like it'll be twins. And then from there, they're like, okay, well, it's high risk. And then each blood work and everything after that, it was like, okay, well, we're looking for this. And it was never simple.
Having twins, did you get, those kind of comments people make about twins, like, oh, you get two for one, and now you don't have to, like just those weird things people say about twins?
I definitely got some, not as, I would say not as much. And probably some of that was just because it was during COVID. So even during my pregnancy, I wasn't really seeing a ton of people because at that point it was 2020. So I wasn't like, it was the end of 2020 into like winter. So I really wasn't like out and about much the whole time I was pregnant. Like it was a very like a very isolated period of my life.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think any of us were really doing much going out during that time.
No.
People could have whole pregnancies and have babies and no one would ever know unless you told them,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much what it seemed like. There was, other than like the immediate family and maybe the occasional outdoor meetup with a friend, I was home. I was working from home, like everything was home.
Did you announce that pregnancy or did you keep it, private?
We did announce it. We waited a little until I want to say it was like 15 or 16 weeks that we had announced it, probably like 50, right after we got the genders. And that was something like I went back and forth a lot about because with the first one, I mean, I got the medication by 8 weeks, I think. So like I knew pretty quickly, but we had already told like just parent siblings. So like we had already done that. And then my husband was he was very against telling anyone right away in the second one. I wasn't as much because I was like, well, if something goes wrong, like I'd rather have someone to talk to and like the support. But so we ended up, I think we just still told like parents and our siblings after a few weeks. But yeah, we didn't announce until a little bit later on.
Yeah, I know that can be kind of one of those, not controversial, that's not the right word, but debated things, because
Mm-hmm.
everyone says, oh, don't announce till 12 weeks. And then some say, I'm not announcing till the baby's born. And it's just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I always am just curious when people decide to announce
Yeah.
those pregnancies.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I was definitely, because of the loss and then like going right into the complicated pregnancy, I was definitely like superstitious. Like my best friend had to like force me to go register because I was like, I don't want to register for anything. Like people could just buy whatever. I like didn't want to register. We had finally ordered cribs, like probably, I was probably at least 5 months by that point. And so we had ordered them and then like almost immediately at an appointment, like within a month, the doctor was like concerned that one of them wasn't going to make it. And I was like, well, cancel the cribs. I'm like, I don't want cribs in the house. Like, I don't want any of this here. But thankfully, they both made it. But it was definitely like a very anxious pregnancy. Like, I didn't want to jinx it with like all the things.
It's always scary. I mean, like in your head that you buying something doesn't really make that loss happen, but
Mm-hmm.
also in your head, it feels like it does. Like it's like, well, I shouldn't have been so excited or I. Have been too hopeful. It's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just dealing with all those like
Yeah.
back and forth feelings you go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you feel like you got good support from like your medical team and medical staff during both the infertility and loss? And I guess your complicated pregnancy as well.
Yeah. I mixed. I definitely really liked the reproductive endocrinologist, the fertility doctor, but it wasn't, mm, I mean, they're just, you go in, you do your blood work, you do your sonogram, they talk to you and you leave. So it wasn't like super supportive in that way. It just was what it was. Personally, I had a really, really amazing OB that he is one of the doctors where like you need to be prepared to wait 2 hours for your appointment because he's never on time, but it's because he's spending an hour with his patients. So he was wonderful. I mean, I would go in with like a list of questions for him every appointment and he would take his time. He, after each appointment I had with like the high risk doctors, he would then meet with me like a day or two later and explain like everything for me. The high risk doctors, I mean, they were great in that like they were thorough with following up. At the end for the last month of my pregnancy, I was there for 3 or 4 times a week for like monitoring and sonograms and things. So like they were like very thorough, but you had to ask questions. They weren't like explaining things without asking, and I didn't know what to ask.
Right.
my doctor would then like be like, okay, like these are the things like they were talking, they found, and then he would kind of go through it. So he was super supportive in that way, which is good. But I would say he was like the main support medically.
Yeah, I like that the high risk doctors that they can be so thorough, but it's not really helpful when they, like you said, when they don't explain to you what's happening. Because yeah,
Mhm.
we've never been through most of these things before, so
Mhm.
how would we know what
Yeah.
to ask or when to ask certain things, you know? So
Mhm.
I'm glad you had him to kind of go through all that
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how I would have made it through without him there to explain everything.
So did you find that there were any particular things that helped you with your grief?
I have I can help. I have birthstone rings for each of the losses for like the month they were due. My friend jokes that they're my infinity rings because they have like different gems on each finger.
I love that. I love that visual.
Yeah. So that was like something that I found helpful. We did also, something I found helpful was naming each baby. I know some people aren't comfortable with that, but I definitely found that helpful. I needed that, like, that they were real, that they were like our babies. So I think those things were helpful. And right after the loss and then during the pregnancy, I definitely tried to keep myself busy with like crafts and things. I think I probably had the most intricately wrapped Christmas presents ever that year because I was like, I have time and I have anxiety to
So
all
many
of these
bows on
things.
these, right?
Yeah.
I love that. And so you're also a therapist, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And you were doing that before, or you started that after?
So I was doing therapy before, but I didn't switch to perinatal specialty until after. A lot of that was because during my pregnancy with the twins, when the doctor had told me that she didn't think baby B at the time was going to survive, or really that we had to choose whether or not we wanted to continue the pregnancy if he might not, so his brother could. At that point, I was like, well, I can't handle this. So I had started looking for a therapist that specialized in it. And it was really hard to find one. It was every place I would call, it would be like, well, it's a 3 month wait list. Or I was like, well, I won't be pregnant in 3 months. So like that's not helpful. Or they didn't take insurance. So it was going to be $200 a session, which, and I'm a therapist. I understand that they need to make money and wait lists are there.
It's like,
But
but then what's the point of insurance if nobody
mhm,
takes it, right?
yeah. And it felt like as a therapist, if I couldn't find someone, then like how are people who weren't in the field finding people? So that was like one of my main motivators was like I didn't want anyone to have to like struggle with it the way I had to. So I did eventually find like a really amazing therapist who like helped me through that, helped me through postpartum, like all of it. And that was a lifesaver. I mean, I needed that person to like help me with my anxiety and postpartum and everything. So that was like kind of my main motivator to make that switch and get certified in perinatal mental health and open my own practice doing that.
So what exactly does perinatal mental health cover?
Mm-hmm. So it's really from like really from like when you decide you want to start a family or like you're thinking about it, and then beyond. Like I have a lot of clients who are in the earlier stages of like deciding, and some fertility treatments or testing. I'm the pregnancy piece, so all the different pregnancy pieces, the loss, NICU stays, or any sort of like medical issues after birth. And then some perinatal therapists will kind of, once the baby's like a little bit older, they might like refer out, but I don't necessarily do that. I keep like my clients can stay as long as they want, like when they need it. But I have clients that whose kids are now, they were babies probably the same time my kids were babies. So now they're like 4 years old. And so I definitely keep going through that because it's all, I mean, as a parent, it's all part of that.
Yeah, I remember after our loss, the hospital like gave us a list of counselors that we could contact. I contacted all of them. None of them responded to me. And I'm like,
Mhm.
what am I supposed to do? And then it becomes too hard and too much of a chore to find a therapist, so you just kind of give up.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm really glad that that's something that you decided to specialize in because I think we need way more of them, obviously, because
Yeah.
that's a time of a lot of change in our lives. I mean, even
Mhm.
just if you just have a regular, uncomplicated pregnancy with no infertility and no loss, that's still a lot of change. And then you just
Absolutely.
add on
Yeah.
everything else. And then we're just kind of, as
Mhm.
women, left alone, like, okay, you had the baby, good luck.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so true. It's like the biggest transition you can probably go through as like an adult, and then it's they just kind of get your 6 week appointment, and then you're like, good luck, enjoy.
I know, like, come back later, I guess, if you're pregnant
Yeah.
again or for your annual. Like, all
Yep.
right. And then here you are taking your baby to like multiple appointments, which I mean, yeah, I'm glad they're taken care of. It feels like
Yeah.
need to be taken care of too.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like your experience going through everything helps you, better understand like what your clients are going through?
Absolutely. I mean, as a therapist, there's definitely times where like I don't have similar experiences as my clients, and it doesn't stop me from doing my job, right? Like that's part of therapy, is that like we're able to work through. But I do think that it's helpful, and I think a lot of times clients find it helpful too, to just know that the person they're talking to understands some of it. Because I do think that, especially during the perinatal period or like any sort of loss or anything, there's an isolation that comes with it. There's like a feeling like you're all alone in the social media world of like everybody doing their pregnancy announcements and or everyone having like these beautiful times as a new parent, like with a newborn, and it's not always easy, right? Like I was probably a zombie for a year. I couldn't remember the last time I took a shower. And what, like a lot of the stuff I saw online was like people going out and like going on these walks with their kids. And I was like, I literally look like I like haven't showered in a year. Like it was so bad.
I know, I saw those too. I'm like, who does this? Am I like,
Mhm.
I can't even like get up and get out of the house. I'm too tired. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we definitely just see the what
Hmm.
people want you to see, the happy, perfect side when we're all
Yeah.
really like messes for a while. And
Hmm.
that's okay. That's what it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So do you feel like we talked about like your medical team? Do you feel like you've got good support from your family and friends?
Yes, I definitely feel like the support was there. I think sometimes the support was there, but it wasn't necessarily the support I needed at the time. Like I was, I don't want to say lucky, but I was like lucky enough to have two girlfriends that were kind of going through the treatments and things at the same time as me. So like that was like a huge support. We were able to like talk to each other and like support each other in that way, with again like almost normalizing, like someone knew what was going on. But I had like the support of like my family, my husband, my in-laws, like they're amazing. So I definitely had a lot of support, but a lot of it was the things you see, the things you hear, right? Like, well, relax and it'll happen, or like there's another, like you're gonna do another IUI, like that's the one. And it was always like, okay, but what if it isn't? Or like even when the boys were in the NICU, I can't tell you how many people were like, oh, well, at least you get to sleep at night. Who thinks I'm sleeping because I'm pumping every 2 hours and crying because my kids are in the hospital and I miss them and I don't know what's happening.
Clearly they haven't had a NICU experience.
Yeah. So it was like a lot of that where it was like, again, it was they were doing their best to be helpful without, but not knowing what to say, which is understandable because they're hard things to go watch someone go through. But I think that was something that I had a hard time with a lot of, was like all the support being there, but the way in my mindset, like it wasn't helpful, a lot of it at the time.
I think sometimes too, we don't exactly know always what we need, but we do know that that is not what we need,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I do feel like people are trying to be well-meaning, but
Mhm.
clearly, people who haven't been through it, just there's no way they can understand fully unless they've
Mhm.
been through it themselves. So
Yeah.
I try to remind myself that, but when you hear the comments like over and over and over again, it gets very frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were there any other resources or anything you found that helped you?
Yeah. I have said as a therapist, like I definitely feel like I had a bit of an advantage in that like I knew what to look for, like if I needed workbooks or if I wanted to do like journaling and things, like I kind of knew where to get those things for myself, which was helpful. Like I do think journaling helped. And I think that now looking back, there's also like I'm in New York on Long Island. So we have like this really amazing motherhood center where like they do fourth trimester groups and they offer all these like prenatal services and things, which I didn't do because COVID was happening. So like nobody was really going out to these things. And they were doing virtual support groups. But by the time I like knew about it, the boys were home and I did not have the mental capacity to like sign on to a support group with the two boys. But now looking back, I'm like, oh, I wish I had like done these things. Like I think that would have been so helpful for me. But like I just didn't know that they were there.
I find that's frustrating when you don't know about things. Like there's things that could be right in your backyard and you don't know because nobody tells you and you have to just Google the right thing to find
Mm-hmm.
it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't find like the lost community on Instagram and stuff until I think over a year after my loss. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I wish I had found this sooner. This would have been really helpful that first year.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you struggled a little bit in your postpartum period after your boys. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I had definitely a hard time. I had really, really bad anxiety, some like postpartum OCD, which was really hard. And I think it was compounded by the fact that they were like preemies, immunocompromised, and like COVID was still happening. So I didn't know what would happen if they got sick. So it was like so scary. Like I said, I didn't really let people come to the house. I didn't really let people meet them. Anyone that did come, like any of my family that did come, like they had to get a flu shot. Like I was like, they were like, "You're making me get a flu shot?" I was like, "No, if you want to come in my house, you're getting a flu shot, but I'm not making you." You're deciding, but yeah. So that was like really difficult. I had really bad intrusive thoughts about things happening to them, like them not breathing or issues with them like drinking bottles and like worrying that they were going to choke on the milk or they were on formula, like really bad things with that. And what my worst intrusive thought, and I have no idea where it comes from, was that there was going to be a house fire, and I had no idea how I was going to get them out of the house. So I would spend hours in the middle of the night, like Googling fire safety equipment and like what could I put in the window because they have the second floor window with nothing beneath it. And that was something I really struggled with, like hours every night before going to sleep. So I worked on that in therapy. I did EMDR therapy to work through some of that anxiety and like the birth trauma. But I also ended up choosing to go on an SSRI for the anxiety, which definitely was helpful for the intrusive thoughts and to like make me able to like function better.
I actually had to go on medication too after my last pregnancy for the same reason. Those thoughts, I mean, I was like, "Oh my gosh, these are scary. Where are these coming from?" And
Yeah.
you have to like remind yourself that okay, that's not normal to feel this way, so it's okay
Mhm.
to go talk to somebody to go get help.
Yeah.
'Cause I think a lot of women go through it, but it's not the common
Mhm.
postpartum depression that you hear.
Mhm.
So you think there's
Yeah.
nothing like somebody can do for me?
Mhm.
So what would you suggest for people who are struggling with that?
Yeah. I mean, number one is I wish it was like a requirement to go to therapy after you had a baby. I just think that should be like the standard part of like your postpartum experience. That's like my number one thing is definitely like reach out for help. And I know how hard it is, right? I know it's hard to find someone and to like feel comfortable. The first time I went to therapy before this took me a long time as a therapist. I was like, I don't want to go to therapy. but it's like so helpful. It can really change everything. Like there's somebody there that can like tell you like it gets better and like this is how we work through those scary thoughts that like it doesn't have to be like this forever. I think that's a huge piece is therapists definitely speaking to a doctor. Like if you do think medication can be helpful for you, but really building that support system, like finding the people. So whether it's like a support group or like making sure you have like a supportive group of friends on your own or whoever. But I think that's like the thing I come across the most personally. And also like for clients is like the bigger, not even bigger, the better your support system, like the better you handle it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I think, well, for some people, the shift to more online therapy, I think is good because it makes it where you don't have to find childcare or get out of the house or, things like that. But then I guess for some people, they prefer to get out and get away for a
Yeah.
while. So I think it's good to have both of those options. And like you said, groups, and there's so many groups I see now. And
Yeah.
I don't even remember seeing all of those when I was going through my loss.
No.
Like that would have been helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Just, I think as difficult as social media can be for some things, I do think it definitely opened access to like a lot of things people didn't know about or that just didn't really exist even 5 years ago, let alone like 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's been good in that way. It's been kind of bad because now I know literally everything that can go wrong in a
Yep.
pregnancy. And I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't know all these things.
Mhm.
But, at the same time, it does bring you that connection
Yeah.
with other people who have gone through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there anything else that you'd like to share or add?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, well, if people were wanting to connect with you, do you have social media or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I have Instagram for work. I actually like try to share helpful things for postpartum since it is perinatal based. So that is at Blossoms of Change Counseling, leave with underscores in between the words. But I also have a website, which is, I think, blossomsofchangecounseling.com.
Sometimes it's hard to remember exactly
Yeah.
how you phrased it, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I think I would love for people to reach out. I see as a therapist, I can only work with people in New York, but I really try to keep my Instagram pretty like open for sharing things, not only like helpful tips and things, but a little bit about myself also. Like I think it's a great way to get to know everybody out there, people that are going through similar things.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I was so excited.
Thank you so much, Courtney, for sharing your story with us. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you like the show, please leave a positive review or rating on Apple or Spotify. It only takes a moment and really helps the show reach more loss and infertility families. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.